I'm Terry Ikumi. Welcome to The Gavel. The Senate Committee on Niger Delta has rejected the 2020 capital budget of the ministry over the non-completion of major projects in the region. Also, the Senate Committee on Trade and Investment is to investigate the allegation of the illegal transfer of 14.3 billion naira from the 2017 budgetary allocation of the Nigerian Exports Processing Zones Authority, NEPZA, to a private company. These are some of the headlines from the budget defense sessions held within the week under review in the National Assembly. Now, some of the committees held joint budget defense sessions, while others had ministers running from one part of the National Assembly to the other. Well, you guessed it. This week on The Gavel, the focus is on the budget defense sessions by both arms of the National Assembly, beginning with the Senate.
Heads of government agencies are still defending the 2020 budget of the organizations at the National Assembly. On Monday, the 21st of October, it was the turn of the Minister of Niger Delta to present his ministry's 2019 budget performance and give a breakdown of its proposed expenditure for 2020. But members of the committee were unhappy with that presentation for several reasons.
This one, we don't take this one and stamp on our face and projects are abandoned and you're living everywhere, and then you want us to do new projects and tell us 50%. What of those ones that are big to have left? Honorable Minister, we need to look at this budget again with you, and we expect you to do your clean up, because if the documents we needed were not supplied to us.
I would advise you, I think you should reject this budget and do something going to be remembered in history. The budget style that you have now is not different from the one you did last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and that's not the problem. This type of budget doesn't produce anything visible for people.
Speaking to journalists afterwards, this minister acknowledged that there had been no capital releases so far from the 2019 budget.
I think instead of saying that the budget was rejected, I think that the distinguished senators should collectively make an appeal to the Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning to improve upon the envelope and to expand it a little so it can capture and at least substantially most of the yearnings and aspirations of the good people of Niger Delta. And again, there is nothing we could have done about the budget based on the fact that we are yet to receive even 1 naira for the capital project for 2019.
The committee directed the minister to revisit the budget and return on Monday, October the 28th.
Distinguished colleagues,
on the 22nd of October, it was the turn of the Minister of State, Trade and Investment to present her ministry's 2019 budget performance and give a breakdown of its proposed expenditure for 2020. But the committee chairperson first reminded the minister of an existing matter which was yet to be resolved.
the committee is aware of the existing legislative query on the ministry and the Nigerian Export Processing Zones Authority over the 14,376,027,584 naira 65 kobo that was illegally transferred from the 2017 appropriation budget of NEPZA to Nigerian Special Economic Zones Company. This is a breach of the 2017 Appropriation Act. This committee intends to see to the end of the query and inquiry as to find a logical conclusion and seek an explanation how that sum got moved from government coffers ostensibly to a private company without due process and without provision of goods and services. We have further learned that more appropriation has been made to that company, and again, we would seek to find out the relationship of this company to your ministry and to NEPZA to warrant it being appropriated funds directly from the nation's coffers. We would, if you respond to the query, we may listen to your query, we may look at your query, but if we do not get a response quickly enough, then we'll raise the matter up again on the floor of the Senate and make sure that a full inquiry and a public hearing is conducted so that we can see, come to a logical conclusion as to what exactly happened.
14 billion in respect of NEPZA is an item NEPZA should be in a very proper position to explain to the committee, and I believe NEPZA will find a way of doing that. But it was the idea of opening an equity company was the creative idea of the former minister. He believed it was more proper to have a centralized equity company that could manage all free trade zones in the country, where investors could contribute towards a particular cause, so that money realized from there could now be applied to create and develop free trade zones. And it was also his belief that NEPZA and oil and gas free trade zones should concentrate on some regulatory aspect of not getting themselves involved in operation. That was why it was the decision that an equity company was necessary to be created. But then, in all he did throughout that period, he consulted very widely and also got approval of the Federal Executive Council.
Meanwhile, at another budget defense, the Committee on Ethics and Privileges raised questions over the non-completion of a building intended to be the headquarters of the Code of Conduct Bureau. During the agency's budget defense session, the chairman of the committee demanded an update of the building project from officials of the Bureau, noting that the sum of 1.3 billion naira had been released to the contractor, but the building was nowhere near completion.
In your submission, I look around, nothing is said about the headquarters of this particular agency. So what has happened to it? If I have not asked, or I don't have pre-knowledge of what was on ground before, nobody will even discuss this one as we speak now. Because if new people just come, and this is what they see, what you don't want them to say, you keep it under something. So I have brought it out. Please, we need to know. Give us a report about the action being taken by Ministry of Finance, who released over 1.3 billion. I don't know whether it's more than that. This was released as a 2014 budget. And 2015 budget, I think some money was released also to the agency. So the thing go to the same drain. So we want to investigate and look at what has happened.
While expressing concern over the underfunding of anti-corruption agencies in the country, the committee recommended to the federal government that the Code of Conduct Bureau and Tribunal should have statutory transfers or be put on first-line charge because of the nature of the anti-corruption agencies.
This is the speech of the President.
When the Inspector General of Police came to defend the budget of the police at the Senate, he painted a worrying picture of woeful release of funds for overheads in the 2019 budget, as well as the extremely inadequate allocation in the 2020 budget, as Nigeria grapples with insecurity in virtually every part of the country.
The police depends on the government for funds for its day-to-day operations. However, the annual budgetary allocation to the force, especially with regards to capital and overhead cost expenditures, do not reflect the enormous size, scope, responsibility, and actual needs of the force. Arising from these limitations occasioned by budgetary revenue constraints, some of the requirements that will enable the force to perform optimally are not provided. For instance, as against the capital budget estimate of 63.9 billion proposed by the Nigeria Police for the 2020 fiscal year, the force was given an envelope of 12.3 billion. The summary of 2019's appropriation releases the capital expenditure. The capital, what was appropriated is 22.06. Amount released is 6.3. which represents 28.6%, and this amount was just released on 22nd of this month. To expatiate on the dilemma of the force as far as overhead allocation is concerned, a few examples below will suffice. As at date, the force has a fleet of 12,713 vehicles, including 1,420 motorcycles nationwide. So going by the above example, it implies that the entire sum of 9.2 billion projected for all subheads in the overhead cost for police formation and commands in 2020 budget is not even enough to provide minimal fueling and maintenance costs for police operational vehicles for 4 months.
The meeting went into a closed-door session as the committee chairman was not comfortable with security matters being discussed in the open. In another meeting room, the Ministry of Works also defended the budget of his ministry. He too was worried about the problem of infrastructural deficit across various sectors and missed scarce resources to fix them, and advocated for the launch of a national infrastructure bond of 10 trillion naira to close the gap of fund releases and yearly deficit capital budget financing.
I would recommend, and which I have addressed during my confirmation hearing, was that we should do something like launch a national infrastructure bond. And this will be the responsibility of the Ministry of Finance and Debt Management Office. I had done an envelope size of, say, 10 trillion. That doesn't mean we want to raise 10 trillion this year. But if we launch such an instrument with a very competitive coupon rate backed by law as a very secure investment that people can put their money into, I think that is one way to entice, if that is the word, to inspire agencies like the pension funds to invest money in a secure government-backed instrument. They are investing in treasury bills because it's government instrument. It's secure because the whole idea is that the monies of workers in that fund must never be lost. That's the whole idea. So they are a little concerned about infrastructure because of some of these challenges. So if government backs it, then we can, anytime we need to raise money, we can have a 10 trillion fund over 4 years or 5 years. Every year or every period we need to fund projects, we issue a demand for subscription and raise 2 trillion, 3 trillion. And more importantly, the more important point, and this is not a proven concept, they're just my ideas, is that we should then disaggregate the sizes of investment that people can make. There's a lot of money in the informal sector, cash kept at home, that people, if they are convinced that this is a secure government instrument, want to invest 10,000 naira, and 50,000 of them want to do that. Why should they be excluded?
Committee members appear to be in support of the minister's proposal for the 10 trillion naira bond, even as Mr. Fashola disclosed that as at October 15, 2019, only 53.3 billion naira was released to the work sector from the 2019 budget, which amounts to 23.88% of the capital budget. The Senate Committee on Capital Market also held its budget defense session.
From our observation, there's a persistent downward movement of our capital of our market capitalization. There's urgent need to address this negative trend. There's equally the need to revive our commodity exchange and make the market reports are functional. We should try to introduce new products to consolidate on the existing ones and make deep study of other capital markets as well as to align with global practices. We should ensure the domestication of our products to encourage local investors. The capital market needs to reactivate our second tier market and take on board unlisted multinational companies in order to develop the capital market.